corporate plan launched for Pacific Institute of Leadership and Governance. Prime Minister pays tribute to colonial servicemen. And 200 students graduate amidst global pandemic.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Seah.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Friday's news. The Pacific Institute of Leadership and Governance has set a new pathway that clearly sets out detailed broad activities to guide the institution achieve its goals. This comes after the launch of its 10-year strategic plan, corporate plan and other publications. The plan will guide the institution to deliver on its mandated responsibility to develop quality human resources in the country and the Pacific.
The launching of the strategic and corporate plan saw all staff and students of PILAG and other stakeholders in attendance. The 10-year strategic plan 2020 to 2030 focuses on the development of ethics-based leadership with strong governance within PNG and Pacific. The plan also captures and promotes development of public service human resource through quality training and development.
We want to ensure all training programs and support systems are equipped to deal with the changes in the learning methods where PILAG is currently embarking on.
Since its inception in 1964, PILAG, as the only premier school of government, continues to uphold a very rich history of the country. It was formerly known as Administration College or EDCOL and most recently known as PNG Institute of Public Administration. Over the years, the institution has been providing competency-based public sector training at the national and sub-national level aimed at developing the public sector capacity. In a recent government reform, the PILAG Act 2017 was revised, giving the institution more mandated responsibilities.
I must also add that the revised PILAG Act of 2017, coupled with rebranding of Institute of PILAG, has not only redirected the focus of Institute, but also empowered it to pursue diversified and inclusive public sector training, not only in PNG, but in the Pacific as well.
The 3-year corporate plan, which was also launched, commences the 10-year implementation journey with set objectives. The major focus of the plan is to capture the government's medium-term development plan 3, and through the implementation of these plans, PILAG aims to be the focal point of the development of leaders in the public service through the courses they offer. The CEO says the public services must be equipped with ethics-based leadership knowledge, behavior skills and adhere to good governance.
People need to be trained well to take on board the government policies, to have know-how, to have knowledge, to implement the government policies so that services are provided to the people throughout the country.
Along with the strategic and corporate plan, the institution's administrative orders were also launched with the unveiling of the institute's website. Department of Personnel Management Secretary Taya Sansan thanked all development partners who have contributed to reform and change the image of the institution over the years.
I acknowledge the great contributions and tireless efforts of those hardworking staff of PILAG and its stakeholders in putting together its first strategic 10-year plan, its first corporate plan 2020 to 22, its first administrative orders under the PILAG Act 2017.
Rayon Lakingu, National EMTV News.
Prime Minister James Marape is in Telefomin District with development partners and member-elect Solan Merisim to launch government projects. Before the launching, the Prime Minister and Australian High Commissioner John Phillips paid tribute to two of history's unsung heroes. In 1953, field officers Gerald Saka and Jeffrey Harris of the Department of District Services and Native Affairs were murdered by locals in Telefomin. Wreaths were laid at a monument erected to acknowledge their work in Telefomin before their untimely death. Marape acknowledged Australia's reign in the colonial era that had the KIAP system in place to govern remote areas of the country.
KIAP's two patrol officers, their names are here. Gerald Leo Tadzaka, he's a cadet patrol officer, and Jeffrey Broadcliffe Harris. were field officers of the Department of District Services that time and Native Affairs. They were here and they were killed in a Liptamin. They were patrol up to Liptamin and they were killed. And then the constable Prurali and Brutari, these two are Moropians. So they went up to Liptamin and brought those bodies down and left them to Mosby. So this is in memory of those two patrol officers or field officers who were in Telefomen.
Today, you and me have the luxury of knowing where is Telefomen, who lives in Telefomen, what is Tari, who lives in Tari, who lives in Oxapmin, who lives in all the remotest areas of our country. But in those days, they traveled by canoe, they walked on foot, they flew on small unsafe aircrafts. These Kiabs laid down their life for our country to be where we are today. Lest we forget them. Australian generations who care for Papua New Guinea must not forget the Kiabs. Papua New Guineans, all in all, must not forget the Kiabs. For what our country was before, malaria infested, poisonous snakes, mountains and terrains, creeks, lowlands of swamp and crocodiles. It was the Kiabs and the early Papua New Guineans who worked with them, like the two other policemen who rescued their bodies, who took their bodies, dead bodies, and took the bodies back to Port Moresby and for the bodies to go back to Australia. What a story of self-sacrifice for a country that they did not see what it will become into the future.
So thank you again, Prime Minister, for your kind words and for the chance today to honour these people who work for both our peoples and both our countries.
For the first time, the people of Tari in the Hela province will have access to the EMTV signal. The Hela provincial government purchasing an EMTV transmitter that allows surrounding communities and villages in a 30-kilometre radius to connect to EMTV through an antenna. Provincial Administrator William Bando says access to information was vital and the provincial government saw the need to allow the people to watch news and TV programs at no cost. The transmitter cost around 400,000 kina and the provincial government plans to extend transmission to 2 other districts.
Thank you. MTV signal is live today. We've just switched it on. And Hela people don't need to pay, the top-ups to watch MTV. They now need to go straight into the screens, and it's a 30 kilometers radius from Tari. So any TV stations, TVs that are within that radius can now have access to free MTV signal as of today.
Still in Hela province, road sealing in Tari to Como through ExxonMobil tax credit scheme is almost complete, while roadwork sealing from Como to Ambua is underway. Provincial Administrator William Bando acknowledging the work of Governor Philip Undialu to see the road sealing project finally take place in the province.
The governor has been very, very strong on that, as you've heard. And it's very decisive, and as a result we've been able to seal a good section of the road from here to Como. Only section that's left is about 10.1 kilometers. Once that's sealed, Como is connected with the sealed road power, and then from here to Ambua is about 10 kilometers already sealed, passing the lodge, and then the big one from Ambua to Nipa, which is about 61 kilometers, which we surveyed and designed, and we're giving it to the Works Department.
While the ripple effects of COVID-19 has caused a good number of technical and training institutions to go into recess, the same cannot be said about the 200-plus determined students who graduated with flying colors today. Over 200 students from Apex Training Institute graduated in the field of plant and motor vehicle operation. It was a small but significant ceremony witnessed by students, staff, families and stakeholders.
COVID-19 did little to hinder these determined students from their learning, and this was resonated in today's ceremony, seeing up to 234 plant and vehicle operator students having successfully completed the program and certified. The efforts of the students warmly acknowledged by the head of the institution.
They have successfully completed their theory part of the training, and so has the practical part of the training, actual operating of machines and driving heavy vehicle. So I thank all the graduate students.
Thanking stakeholders and organizations for making MTI's processes and procedures possible and easier.
I personally would like to thank Brunei Caution Bay Limited, National Training Council, and MTV Driving Office for making MTI process and procedures possible and easier. These are the organizations which certify the quality of the program, and the certificates that students will receive are also certified.
Personally conveying gratitude to one particular government agency that concludes the certification process of issuing students driving and operating licenses.
Another government department that I would like to appreciate and needs a special mention here is MPIL. This is the government agency that concludes the MABEX Training Institute's planned and motor vehicle training process and procedures. Conclusive part of their job is by issuing us the driving and operator licenses, class 1, class 4, and class 6 and 7. For the operating of machines and the driving of heavy vehicles.
Concluding his speech with a challenge for the graduating students, the institution had expounded on MTI's on-the-job training program, which is the first of its kind in PNG for a training institute to initiate.
Whoever your employees are, so that the trust, confidence, commitment, and knowledge and skills that you have learned from MTI. OJT program was purposely set up to help assist our students look for jobs. We write to all private and public organizations, and we apply for positions or jobs for them.
Anet Kora, National EMTV News.
Retired PNG Defence Force Brigadier General Jerry Singirok says PNG needs proactive leadership. Mr. Singirok says people are not seeing the benefits of their resources as the government is hit hard with debts. Singirok says the country has come 45 years and is mature enough to chart a better way forward by opening dialogue with developed nations to harness the rich resources.
If we haven't moved forward, then what will we do to move forward?
Speaking to MTV, Mr. Singirok described the 45th independence as the maturity stage of the country. He did not blame any government for the failures or decisions, but says sound leadership is what the country needs. Singirok says 45 years is enough to see mistakes and make better choices.
I say we are struggling. We're struggling. Our social indicators are not encouraging. Unemployment, law and order situations, lack of opportunities. We have a lot of challenges, but that doesn't mean that we should just stand and watch the world go by. We have to be proactive.
While so much has been said in what the country achieved or not, the former PNG Defence Force commander says social indicators are very poor. He wants to see better choices by our leaders. Prime Minister James Marape recently pointed out inefficiency in the service delivery system and says improvements are captured to bring change in government business.
For the next 5 years, we are putting in motion a plan to build better, modern health facilities in all our provinces nationwide.
While the country is at the crossroads, Mr. Singirok says the world will not wait for others. He says better dialogue with superpowers or developed nations will harness the rich resources our people own. He says ways of doing government business must improve.
So this is coming back to how do we take control of our natural resources and our people so that we can use as a kudos, as something that we can bargain with, so that we can proactively engage, so that we can bring development, because that's the biggest challenge now. How do we engage with superpowers so that we can enable our people to reap off the rewards of those big decisions?
Jack LaPava Jr., National EMTV News.
Controller of the National Pandemic Response, David Manning, has urged more citizens to come forward for COVID-19 testing. Manning says knowing your COVID-19 status can prevent you from spreading the virus to your family and friends. The controller also called on health facilities throughout the country to do more swabbing according to the testing strategy and to send the samples to laboratories for testing. Meanwhile, no COVID-19 case was reported in the country for the third day in a row. The country's confirmed cases remain at 516 with 6 deaths. To date, 13 provinces in the country have confirmed cases. National EMTV News continues with more stories after these messages. Don't go away. Welcome back. It has been 4 years in a row for no independence celebrations in Mount Hagen City. Every year, patriotic Papua New Guineans would dress in their red, black and gold colors just to feel the independence joy. But it's a different story in the third largest city of the country. Vasinatayama with more.
EMTV News took to the streets of Mount Hagen City yesterday on the 45th Independence Day. Patriotic men, women and children were dressed in their red, black and gold colors to celebrate the 45th independence meaningfully, but to no avail.
Me feeling as me amamas nungutro. Kalablo PNG come good, country am stable right, and then me looking some changes like come up, so this like independence now me feeling inside the bell me amamas. Me feeling as by me play attending this like independence one me along again, but again me no celebration.
But this did not stop them from walking and driving around the city with their flags flying high. It was business as usual for others and public holiday for public servants and school children. Few districts, schools and churches in the province held little celebrations. For city residents, they are appealing to the provincial and local level governments to host bigger celebrations in the coming years.
And then Mibla community yet, Mibla Man Merilo Western Islands yet, Mibla decorative city. That's what Mibla decorative city again. And Man Meri yet Mibla make him. Ino member, Ino councillor, Ino Usaid. But Mibla Babunugin Mibla yet stop inside the city residents Mibla decorative city. So me Amamas long Man Meri Blom inside the settlement.
The Independence Day was also a time to earn extra money. For Moses Robert, a city vendor, he sold PNG flag bonnet covers and made a whopping 600 kina yesterday.
Independence Day come up na me making minus making before. Na me making me karagam salelo 50 kina na me salom 25 bla finish na now me only last 2 blaster.
Vasinatayama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
PNG Country Belong Yumi is a well-known song sung by the Rex Band of Morabe. The song was written and released in 1994 and promoted a united PNG in a land of diverse cultures. When asked about the song, band frontman Bongas Gango said they wanted to produce something that would make Papua New Guineans feel proud, especially during independence.
It's been more than 20 years since this song was released, but its message still relevant, promoting unity across the regions to strengthen a country set against the backdrop of development and changes. This was the message in Rex Band's song PNG Country Belong Yumi. The band's frontman Bongas Gango reflects on the song, saying they wanted to produce something that would make Papua New Guineans proud by listening to it.
PNG, country belong you me. Islands na biz na island one time.
Mipla putting in the way that was bungi mogara culture belong me. Papua New Guinea na country come compla. Osem Islam kira belda tindi mi plalo mi pro so ki one plus song blo country. Na mi blo kim plus song na.
The three-man band from Finschhafen in Morbe started off in 1984 with wrecked instruments, hence the band name Rex. They recorded their first song with the Pacific Gold Studios in 1989, and many other songs followed. In 1994, they wrote and released PNG Country Belong Yumi, which turned out to be a hit.
Engineer blomi plus and party pots doi. I mean, harem so lyrics plus song, and one good plus song, so and put him in the way that they must come up with one song belong nation. So I'm engineering me plan. I mastermind plus song must come up good plus song belong country.
While the style of PNG music has evolved over the years, Bunga says the messages given through songs is important and it has to be relevant to the PNG audience.
Writing a good plus something song, nature or country or slakan, you must writing those kind of song also.
Lucy Kopana, National EMTV News, Leh.
Enzo's Express Takeaway is now the new manager of the Port Moresby Nature Parks Cafe. Visitors will now enjoy specially tailored meals to suit their needs and take a stroll around the park. Yana Zoriri with this story.
We'll begin business.
The Enzo brand is fast gaining popularity through its outlets at Coral Sea hotels around the country. And the nature park being an ideal spot for families, school children and the general public to learn about the flora and fauna of PNG, and the opportunity to refresh visitors is one Enzo's welcome. Michelle McGeorge, Nature Park CEO, welcomed this partnership and says the park is delighted.
So really excited that we have, had the discussions with Gateway Hotel, and that, we've now got to today where we're officially launching Enzo's at the Nature Park.
Steamship's General Manager Corporate Affairs, David Toa, also shared similar sentiments.
Thank you to Nature Park for considering Coral Sea Hotels and Steamships as your partner. We certainly do look forward to the partnership, which, as Michelle says, partnerships are really the go-forward thing to take Papua New Guinea even further forwards.
The Enzo's Nature Cafe is a subsidiary of the Coral Sea Hotels and prides itself in being home to the best pizzas in PNG and a food court all-in-one venue where one can grab and go or relax and dine in. Yana Zoriri, National EMTV News.
And now looking at the NASFund market report, the Kina closed unchanged at 0.2870 US dollars in the interbank markets. At Bank South Pacific, your Kina is buying 0.2795 US dollars, 0.3777 Australian dollars, 0.2276 euro and 28.61 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold is trading higher, coffee and cocoa closed lower, and copra closed higher. Crude oil is trading higher, palm oil and copper closed higher. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 130.4 points lower. The ASX 200 is trading at 18.72 points lower, and the All Ordinaries is trading at 11.6 points lower. In the news ahead, new facilities for a rural school and a look at education and unemployment. Details after the break. Welcome back to the news. Keria Primary School in Central Province recently opened a 3-in-1 double classroom and a teacher's house. According to the school administration, the classroom will cater for new intakes next year. Karukuhiri MP and a number of parliamentarians attended to witness the opening of the school facilities.
3 state ministers, central governor and other dignitaries were given a local treat upon arrival. The commissioning of the classroom will see nearly 100 students use the facility. The local MP says it cost about 250,000 kina, a decision by the Karukuhiri DDA.
And your teacher's house constructed here
That little funding of 20,000 came from the district support grant from people of Kairukuhi. It's, you know, it's appealing. It's good to see money being put to good use, because it encourages anyone leader to invest more.
Building and maintaining schools has been an issue for many school administration and levels of government. The new facilities will also cater for the increasing enrollment in this part of Central Province. Governor Agarobe says the community must also help the government build services.
So that's the contribution I will give for whatever you do here for the teachers' houses. When we supply this, I can help with roofing iron and stuff like that while you carry with the program. But like I said, once the Lucas sawmills, the big sawmills come into play, the schools, you will have access to this timber. It's going to be cheap timber. It's going to be free to build our own schools.
3 state ministers attended. Communication and Information Minister Timothy Masiu says infrastructure like towers is needed to back education and health services. He promised to improve communications in the area.
Where there's a school, we'll make sure there's a tower there. Where there's an aid post or hospital or health center, we'll make sure there's a tower there, so that communication must come up.
Meanwhile, the local MPS urged locals to free up the land for investment. He says bigger plans and more investment will only happen when land is free.
So when you free up land, we have investors who are willing to put the money down to cultivate land and bring about change.
Jack Lopava Jr., National EMTV News.
Many young Papua New Guineans drop out of school each year at various levels of education, and some take up alternative education pathways, while some end up being unemployed, putting a lot of social stress on society. Job losses during the COVID-19 pandemic in PNG have put further pressure on the government, with the strong encouragement of SMEs being undertaken as a result.
Prime Minister James Marape, in his independence message this week, admitted that dealing with issues relating to education and unemployment in the country as a government is very tough.
You know, with our education system structured in a way where you have high levels of attrition along every step of the way. At grade 8, you have about 50% dropping off. At grade 10, you have about 60% dropping off. Of those that progress to grade 12, you have only about 30% progressing to spaces available at universities and colleges. The challenge of education remains so big, but let me also assure our citizens that it must not stop a young person from thinking that there is no hope out there in our country.
According to the International Labour Organization, over 20 million jobs have been lost globally during the COVID-19 pandemic, with more than 10,000 of these job losses being in Papua New Guinea since April this year. PNG's unemployment rate stands at 2.4% for this year, but is expected to reach 2.5% in 2021, mainly due to COVID-19 pandemic effects. The Public Employees Association of PNG recently expressed serious concern over this.
When state of emergencies and lockdowns are coming out from the state. Who is advising the government? Who is advising the government on how to manage through crisis, how to manage during pandemics?
Prime Minister Marape, ever since taking office in May 2019, has been very vocal about citizens going into business, particularly those who are unemployed or are not having any form of regular income in some way.
Papua New Guineans must know it's not only going to school to get a job as a lawyer, accountant, whatever, those who come out of school look for a job. I want to point to Papua New Guineans. You ex-universities running around looking for a job, you high school students running around looking for jobs, try to pick up an SME somewhere. And that is why we're pushing into the area of SME. The focal point for these young Papua New Guineans who are out there who are currently unengaged, and also those who've left job from the minings and other places. Your district remains your focal point.
Kina Bank CEO Greg Pawson said earlier this week during an interview that the bank is very supportive of the government's efforts to promote SMEs in the country, in which commercial banks will be involved in.
So the government's allocated 200 million Kina for at sort of a discounted interest rate. I think it's about 4% for small businesses to access, and it's largely for businesses with aspirations to grow.
CEO Pawson said given that only a very small percentage of PNG's population is in formal employment, encouragement of SMEs is a positive thing if it is fully implemented, as this will enable more people to access funding mechanisms. Dennis Orere, National EMTV News.
And up next in Trukai Sports, we preview tomorrow's NSL matches. Kilawani with the details.
Yes, Helen, the top 3 teams vie for positions, also cricket and football. Join me for Trukai Sports after the break.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. Matchday 16 of the Kumul Petroleum National Soccer League will see interesting lineups as the top 3 sides consolidate their positions and the battle for 4th place remains wide open. Goals for and against the only difference between 2nd and 3rd place, while the battle for 4th place sees another big tussle. In Port Moresby, 2nd place Hekari will meet Morbe United in a must-win tie.
And out of the blue, Rogers.
Hekari had to beat FC Morbe Wowens and hope for a draw between VTS United and FC Bougainville.
Junior David latched it! Junior David!
Bougainville, with a surprising win over VTS, pushed the debutant side down to 3rd. Equal on points with Hekari, goal difference the big factor. For Hekari, their eyes have always been on the OFC Champions League, the best competition in the region and one which the 10-time NSL champions have won. They will be hoping to secure 2nd place in this must-win encounter. The match of the round is between 3rd place VTS United, who meet a Gulf side that is fighting for that 4th final spot. Last week's round 16 matches provided shocks across the board, with Ley held to a draw and both the informed Gulf Komar and VTS losing.
Oh, strike coming in!
VTS will be hoping for a big win that will certainly secure them that crucial 2nd spot, while Gulf Komar will be reeling after that loss to Tuspub Stallions.
Good ball forward by Tuspub Stallions. They might open the score and...
At the Sir Ignatius Kilagi Stadium, Tuspub Stallions meet FC Morbe Wowens, while Kutubu FC meet FC Bougainville, who have been on a winning streak after a relatively slow start to the 2nd half of the delayed season.
Opportunity, Basil Jafari!
Only 1 point separates Tuspub Stallions currently in 4th, FC Bougainville in 5th and Gulf Komara in 6th.
Carl, we got good header chance for Gulf Komara. Oh! Renagi Ila!
And tomorrow's matches are must-wins for all. Defending champions Ley City are looking at seeing off Star Mountains. Star Mountains' 4-3 win last week was overshadowed by the legal suit they are looking to pursue against the NSL, after a refereeing decision in Ley 2 weeks ago had seen them walk off the pitch. The side is facing a host of penalties and fines as a result. Ley City will be looking to use that as a psychological advantage when they meet Star Mountains in the day's final match. All 3 Port Moresby matches will be simulcast on EMTV and EMTV Online starting at 11 a.m. And EMTV will bring you live the NSL matches from the Port Moresby Football Stadium starting 11 a.m. tomorrow. More stories in Trukai Sports, soccer in Southern Highlands and a new gym for our cricketers. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. Sporting was one area people participated to observe the country's 45th independence anniversary. For the capital of Southern Highlands, Mendi, youths were engaged in a game of soccer with support from local contractor Bush Currents Construction. The independent soccer competition will be played annually, where teams will be vying for the BK Shield. In a bid to engage youths in some form of activity to mark the country's independence, BK Construction went out of its way to sponsor a soccer competition. 34 teams, both male, female and children, are taking part in this competition, and the winner will walk away with the BK Shield plus some cash prizes. 4 teams have registered in the children's category, ranging from ages 7 to 12, 8 female teams and the rest male teams. BK project manager Michael Fokker told MTV Sports from Mendi that BK has stepped in to assist the youths as a way of giving back to the community. President of Mendi Soccer and Vice President of PNG Football Association Highlands Region, Francis Ang, says they hope to finish this year's competition tomorrow. The male winning team will be awarded the BK Shield, while the women and the children's winning teams will receive cash monies as an interim arrangement. A shield for the female should be ready in next year's independence competition. Teams participating in the competition have come as far as Kutubu and also includes trainee teachers from Dowley Teachers College in Hela Province who are on training assignments in the Southern Highlands. Meantime, sponsor BK Construction says they hope to make it a bigger and better one next year. To some cricket news, the T20 World Cup bound Barramundis have their own gym facility. It's not a grand one, but as one elite player puts it, it reflects Cricket PNG's humble beginnings. After securing ODI status and qualifying for the T20 World Cup 2021, Cricket PNG continues to serve its elite sportsmen and women the best possible service. One such project they've been currently working on is their new gym facility. The simple yet effective gym has been a lot of help to the bars, especially during COVID-19.
With the lockdown and everybody back at home and a lot of the gyms closed, especially the high performance center, it was really hard to get our boys to do strength training, and we needed them to be consistent with their strength program. And so we decided that we were going to create our own gym.
Before getting the project off the ground, the elite players, together with their coaches, did a bit of homework, and thanks to the internet, the simple infrastructure took form.
We started off with a lot of Google search and, going through Instagram and DIY hacks, how to come about with all this, homemade garage gym, backyard gym. And we got a lot of good ideas. The big one was this big platform here, the rack platform, that Joe, our head coach, and Sese, one of our batsmen, got together on the weekends and started building.
While the facility only has the basic gym paraphernalia, the coaching team is hopeful for bigger and necessary equipment.
We obviously don't have all the big machines, the machines that, like the hamstring curls and cables, those ones we really need, but we're slowly working our way towards it. In our next one, to get a leg press and find a corner somewhere here to put it in. But I guess we've just got what we need at the moment, and a lot of machines will eventually, hopefully by next year we'll get a bit more stuff in. We've got 2 containers set at the back where we can put in bikes and rowing machines, and then a bit of space in the front for all our functional training.
With the domestic T20 tournament ending last week, the pre-season has now given 12 more weeks to the bars for hard work and training before the year ends. S&C coach says the biggest takeaway from the recent tournament and coaching programs in the new gym facility is the players knowing their individual strengths and weaknesses and working on these roles.
I think the biggest takeaway from it is that the boys have learned a lot more about themselves, getting it player-driven. Yes, we're there to guide and help, but there's just so much we can do. So that was the biggest thing. The biggest achievement is letting the players slowly figure out their individual needs and driving it for themselves.
And that story ends Trukai Sports. Helen will be back with the weather forecast for the next 24 hours. Bye for now.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by MoniPlus, with you always.
I'll look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in the southern region. Rain showers in Alotau and mostly fine in Kerama.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by MoniPlus, with you always.
And that's been the news, sports and weather for Friday, 18th of September 2020. From all of us here at EMTV, pleasant viewing. Be safe. Bye for now.